Rumi was a 13th century mystic. And the rest of that poem, I will begin at the beginning, but the rest of the poem, he says, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right-doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense." And so, as I said, Rumi was a mystic. Mystic being one who opens to that deeper connection with Spirit, becomes the channel, the vessel through which Spirit expresses. The mystic mind being one where there is no separation, that the mind of God and the mind of man really merge and become one. And the one who is a mystic can bring forth into this dimension words like that, or music, or whatever happens to come through that one, music like Pam bringing forth into this dimension. And that was the mind. That's the mind of Jesus, the mind of the Buddha, the one mind, the Christ mind, the mind of light. And what is important for us to note is that it's our mind. There's only one mind. And it's important for us to embrace that there's only one mind, and our mind is that mind. One of my favorite affirmations is the mind that was in Christ Jesus is my mind now. The mind that was in Christ Jesus is my mind now. And as I affirm that, I feel the energy of that affirmation. And I think it's a very powerful affirmation for us to, again, it's not affirmation not being something that we want to make true, but an affirmation is a statement of what is already true. And when we make a statement of what is already true and affirming that in our own consciousness, then we, in our own minds and hearts and spirits, align with the truth of that statement. We become attuned to that. And so it is our possibility, it is our potential. That's what that we believe the master teacher, our way shower, Jesus, was showing us. That it is our opportunity as well to come into that place of oneness, of unity with that mind. Our co-founder of the Unity movement, Charles Fillmore, said this once in one of his books, that we cannot separate Jesus Christ from God, or tell where man leaves off and God begins in him. To say that we are men or women as Jesus Christ was is not exactly true, because he had dropped the personal consciousness by which we separate ourselves from God, and I'm going to say from each other. He became consciously one with the absolute principle of being. He proved in his resurrection and ascension that he had no consciousness separate from that of being. Therefore, he really was this being with a capital B, beingness, if you will, to all intents and purposes. Yet he attained no more than what is expected of every one of us, that they may be one, even as we are, was his prayer. And so what that says to me is that it's our opportunity, yes? And I think until we really get to that place, as Rumi talked about, where the ideas of wrongdoing and right doing are no longer a part of our consciousness, and that sounds almost too good to be true, but where, when we lie down in that field, ideas, concepts, and a powerful idea that even the word, the phrase, each other has no meaning. And I think that is, as Pam said, where we come to that place where there is no more war, there is no more conflict. And I think we have to come to a place where we understand that that's a possibility. Because as long as we believe that it's not possible for us to attain that, it's not going to be possible for us to attain that. I'm not sure, I don't remember who said it, but somebody can tell me, but whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. Who said that? Henry Ford. Whether you believe you're right, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you are right. So if we believe we can't attain that, then we're right. If we believe we can attain that, then we are right as well. And so I believe that we can attain that. And I believe it's important for us to get to that place of believing. It's also important for us to have a vision of what that is like. What is it? What might it be like for us to live in that consciousness where there is no idea of separation from each other, separation from God, separation from the environment, separation from animals and plants and everything that we coexist in? I think that I've been reading Brene Brown's latest book, which is Braving the Wilderness, and what she talks about in there is that she believes that through her research she has discovered, really, that what's happening in our world today is that we have lost sight of that which inextricably connects us. We've lost sight of what inextricably connects us, which is the Spirit, the life, God, source, a field in which we all exist. And that exists as us and through us. And that is what we are all connected in. And war comes when we lose sight of that separation. The war really begins here. All war begins in our own minds. All conflict begins in our own minds. And so when we can come to that place of oneness, of understanding there is no separation, that we are one in that life, then that's where the conflict really begins to end. And our vision for that, in some ways, is given to us in the book of Revelation, which really does talk about the revelation, an unfolding, an unveiling of what is possible. And what it says in Revelation 21 is, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw a holy city, a new Jerusalem. And there was coming down out of the heavens, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people. And God Himself will be with them and be their God, and wipe away every tear. No more suffering, no more death, no more hunger, no more no more thirst, no more. And so that is the vision. And I believe that is the vision as we look at the story, the vision of Jesus, our way shower, as Deepak Chopra says in his book, The Third Jesus, Jesus was about radical change. He was about radical evolution of human consciousness. He was about radical evolution of human consciousness that brings about radical evolution in our human relationships and the way we interact with each other. Bringing about a dramatic evolution of human consciousness where we know that we do not have to war against each other. We do not have to battle against each other. Where we know that that we are inextricably connected and our well-being is inextricably connected to each other, to our environment, to all that we are in interrelationship with in this dimension. So it's about dramatic, radical evolution that we can engage in. And we get to catch the vision. We get to believe it's possible. Do we believe it's possible? Do we believe it's possible? Yes, we believe it's possible. Do we catch the vision? And it sounds like a utopia, right? Oh, that's easy to say. It's not so easy always to do. So I think the next step is that we get to demonstrate that in the world. we get to act that way with each other. To be in the world as if we know our unity, our connection, or as if we are in touch with what inextricably connects us with each other and with the world around us. And again, I understand that is not always easy to do because we're not necessarily trained that way. We're trained in a culture that I get what I need, I get what I want first, and then I'll worry about you, right? It's about mine and yours, about us and them, taking care of our own first. But what we need to get to understand is that our own is everyone. That we belong to each other. And that we are here to care for our environment, to care for each other, to bring that love into this dimension. And so, what came to me this week is that the saying that is act as if, to act as if you're already in that consciousness. There's this phrase that says, fake it till you make it. I like to change it a little. I like the idea of faith it till you make it. Have you heard that one? Not fake it till you make it, but faith it till you make it. And so the idea that I came up with this week, and what really spoke to me, was this phrase that I am going to begin to adopt as my mantra, my motto. At least that's my goal. And my mantra is, do it anyway. Do it anyway. And I came up with some ideas for myself about how I would apply this idea of do it anyway. Now, these may just apply to me, or you might relate to them somewhat, I don't know. But I want to share a few of them with you today. My do it anyways. Because I believe it is important for me, in my own personal journey, to begin to truly acknowledge that which inextricably connects us to each other. I cannot expect someone else to do it. I cannot expect the world to change. There's a song, I don't remember whose it was, but we're waiting on the world to change. Well, the world is not going to change until I change. Change begins with me. And I think my actions can begin to change me. As I act in a way that embodies the consciousness that I really want to embody and to express, that encourages that consciousness. And I can begin to honor what inextricably connects us rather than my own ideas of separation and isolation and differences. And so these are just a few. They don't have to be earth-shattering. They're really not earth-shattering. They're very simple. Even if you're in a hurry, in the checkout line at the grocery, and you think you don't have time or interest in sharing a smile or a kind word with the checker, do it anyway. When you hold the door for someone, even if they don't say thank you, do it anyway. When you're walking down the street or down the aisle in a store, and you greet someone with a friendly smile and a warm hello, even if they turn away and don't acknowledge you, do it anyway. Now, this one might be a little more of a challenge for me. When you're in traffic and you're in a hurry, and the car beside you has raced up to the end of where their lane ends and merges with yours, even if you know they did it intentionally and you don't want to let them in, do it anyway. Anybody else have an issue with that? Yeah. When someone in a family or social setting shares political or spiritual beliefs that stimulate powerful feelings in you, and you want to scream or yell, do it anyway. Yeah. Don't do it anyway. You want to scream or run away rather than stay and engage in civil discourse. Do it anyway. When you're watching or listening to news and hear a story about someone, including an elected official, that stimulates anger and makes it challenging for you to love them, do it anyway. That's a tough one. I've heard so many people speak to me about that. When I've talked about loving people, and when people leave the sanctuary, and I've talked about that, they say, well, how do I love blah, blah? And I know it's sometimes challenging, but do it anyway. Because when we judge, when we project anger and fear, when we are in that energy, we are only adding to that energy. Because fear only produces more fear. And I know it can take some time, but know how powerful it is to return to that energy of love. Love is the only power that heals. Love is the only power that harmonizes. Love is the only power that can transform anything. And so even if you find it difficult, do it anyway. Because you benefit, they benefit, the world benefits. When someone standing on a street corner asks for money and you have the resources to help, even if you have a sense that they will take the money you give them and buy alcohol, cigarettes, or drugs, do it anyway. I learned recently, Doug Harris actually shared with me that he keeps $5 bills in the center console of his car. And when he passes somebody on the street, if they're asking, he has $5 to give them. Now, I know everybody can't do that. You know, a while back, our YOU created what they call blessing bags. Bags to have in your car that have water bottle or a granola bar, maybe a toothbrush or something that we can give, something that we can share. Keep some of those in your car. And again, I think it's important to recognize, because it's so easy for me, I will own it, to get into some judgment about that. But see how that separates me from that which inextricably connects me to that other person. And if I have the resources, if I have the ability to share and to honor that connection with others. And I know that may stimulate some issue, but when someone needs a listening ear or a shoulder to lean on and reaches out for support, even if you have a million other things to do, and you think you can't possibly have time for that, do it anyway. Do it anyway. What I'm learning, what I'm really beginning to embody, is that those things don't really matter that much. What matters is our human connection, honoring that which inextricably connects us to each other, to be there for each other, to support each other in something that might be challenging. I think that's so important for us. And here's one that really speaks to me, and for different reasons. I think I've shared some of that with you. But when a loved one dies, or when a close friend's loved one dies, Even if it is terribly inconvenient for you to attend the funeral or memorial service, if you have the means, do it anyway. Again, honoring the connection that we have with each other, honoring that shared experience of loss and grief that we all have as humanity, and to support each other in that is so important, to show up for each other. And then lastly, when you hear someone making a disparaging remark about another person, or tell a racist or sexist joke, even if it makes your knees shake to speak out, do it anyway. And so I know that's a short list, and you may have others that come up for you. How can we truly begin to embody this idea of our knowing and recognition and acknowledgement of what inextricably connects us as humanity? To honor that for ourselves, to honor that in each other, and return to that space. Because even those little steps, those little actions, can begin that process of the evolution of human consciousness and the evolution of our human relationships. I do believe that is what our master teacher, our way shower, Jesus, was really all about. The evolution of humanity. And even all these years later, we still haven't quite gotten it. So, just to summarize what I've said today, first of all, believe that it's possible. That the mind of God, the mind of Christ Jesus, the mind of the Buddha, the mind of the mystic is your mind. And your opportunity to open to that mind and truly accept that you are a vessel for the spirit of life, for creativity, for the energy that is God all in us, through us, as us. It is a possibility. Hold to the vision of what is possible as we bring heaven to the earth. The consciousness of heaven, of unity, of oneness, of knowing who we truly are. And then begin to faith it till you make it. Choose your own do it anyway statements and begin to do it anyway. So thank you for this morning.